How we doing, guys and girls? Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully you enjoyed the video I sent out on Monday titled First Invasion. That was an intro to a new topic, the War of 1812. Today we're going to go back. We're going to rewind a bit and introduce the causes of the War of 1812. Before we get started, I want to show you today's OneNote worksheet. It is number 15A. War of 1812 causes in the early presidents folder. And I just want to point out that the worksheet actually posted backwards. So this here you're looking at, that's page 2. All right, when you scroll down, page 1 is on the bottom. So that's where you're going to begin. You see the title, Causes of the War of 1812, and the aim, how did conflict with Great Britain lead to the War of 1812. I want you to begin reading the do now paragraph, which is that paragraph, and answer number 1. All right, pause my video, read the do now paragraph, answer number 1. How we doing? We are back. Let's go over the do now paragraph. During Thomas Jefferson's years in office, the United States tried to stay neutral in the conflicts between France and Great Britain, but it was impossible to avoid getting involved. French and British ships interfered with American trade across the Atlantic. The British also caused trouble along the western frontier. Many Americans began to push for a war with Great Britain. Let's answer the do now question and then begin to explain this. Why do you think the United States wanted to remain neutral in the war between France and Britain? Remember that neutral means to stay out. It means to avoid war. It means not choosing sides. So Britain and France went to war in 1803, the same year we acquired the Louisiana Purchase. Why do you think the United States wants to remain neutral? One reason, we don't want to become involved in a European war. Another reason, George Washington's advice to future leaders was to stay neutral. A third reason, war is expensive. Our economy was still recovering. A lot of the American leaders felt that war was a crazy idea because we simply couldn't afford it. Now, think about war with Great Britain. We already had a war with Great Britain, the Revolutionary War. Why the heck do we wind up back at war with Great Britain in 1812? It has to do with bullies. Great Britain was bullying the United States, and American leaders began to become frustrated by this. Both at sea and out west, British threats were becoming a problem, and the United States eventually felt the only way to deal with the bully is to fight back. So we wind up back at war with Britain in 1812 due to the bullying of the United States. All right, so go to your worksheet, and I want you to scroll to page 1 on the top. We are going to begin with the first reading here. All right, now if you look at the worksheet, I made it look like a newspaper article, March 7th, 1807, Washington, D.C. News, the official newspaper of the United States. Redcoats seize the USS Chesapeake. You guys are going to do that reading and answer question 1 and 2. But first, let's talk about what the USS Chesapeake was. The USS Chesapeake was a U.S. naval ship. United States ship. That is what USS stands for. Even still today, most Navy ships are named after either places or states or people. Chesapeake is named after the Chesapeake Bay, which is an important body of water along the Atlantic coast near Maryland and Virginia. In this reading, so you guys are going to complete this reading, answer question 1 and 2. All right, we're here. In this reading, you're going to find out that the British Navy, all right, that's a British Navy officer, they were capturing American sailors off American ships and forcing them to work in the British Navy. There's no better example of bullying than seeing this guy here, a British Navy officer, pointing his gun in the face of an American sailor and basically telling him, I'm going to capture you off your U.S. ship and I'm going to steal you and make you work on our British ship. All right, so pause my video. I want you to do that reading and answer question 1 and 2. We will go back over it when we do the definitions. Welcome back. Hello. So here are the definitions. On OneNote, underneath the first page, I want you to scroll down here to page 2. You're going to copy these definitions here. All right? They go with the reading. So the first definition is impressment. No, we're not trying to impress the boy or girl that we like. Impressment has another meaning. Impressment is when a naval officer is taken from his ship and forced to work on an enemy ship. In this case, the British Navy was kidnapping American sailors and forcing them to work for the British Navy. These American sailors probably didn't have paperwork to prove that they were American citizens. The British Navy had sent out warnings to the United States about trading with France and trading across the Atlantic. And so at this point, with Britain at war, they probably felt they had the right to capture and seize American ships, take the cargo, and, take it a step further, seize the ship's crew and force them to work on British ships. The other issue here with the conflict on the sea, problems with Great Britain in the Atlantic, was the Embargo Act. During Thomas Jefferson's presidency, the Embargo Act was passed. An embargo is a ban on trade. It's a ban on exports. And Jefferson worried about war between France and Britain getting the United States involved, so he banned trade with certain foreign countries. He thought that this might, stem the problems a bit. It didn't. He thought that this might convince Britain to soften its stance against the United States. It didn't. All it did was hurt our economy. The embargo prevented us from trading goods that we needed to trade to foreign countries. Now, underneath the reading, there were 2 questions. I'm sorry, we answered those already. So we just defined impressment and embargo. Next, I want you to answer question 2, which kind of summarizes what we just talked about. Why would the Embargo Act hurt the United States economy? I want you to answer that question, and we'll come back and go over it. Pause my video. Okay, welcome back. So, why does the Embargo Act hurt the United States economy? The U.S. needs to trade. Goods made in the United States can't be shipped to Europe if trade has been blocked off. So the Embargo Act is going to hurt American farmers. It's going to hurt American factories. It's going to hurt the U.S. economy. You think about what's going on now with all the shutdowns during the COVID crisis. This is happening to a lot of American businesses today. Trade has been slowed because of the quarantines, so farmers and factories and our economy is being affected. When business slows down, when trade slows down, it hurts the economy. Now, go back to the worksheet and take a look at the second half of page 1. Not only were there problems out at sea on ships, there were problems out west. I want you guys to read this second part of the lesson, answer question 3 and 4 here, and we will go over this as well. Pause my video. All right, I want to go over these 2 questions right here on the worksheet. So why do you think American settlers came into conflict with Native Americans in the Northwest Territory? first, I want to talk about where the Northwest Territory is. Last week, we learned about the Louisiana Purchase. All right, so you can see on the map, I'll use red, the Louisiana Purchase territory that we learned about last week. There weren't a lot of Americans moving out there yet, but these territories, the light blue territories near present-day Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, those territories were becoming very crowded. Those are the territories that were known as the Northwest Territories during this time period. And it's here, all along the Great Lakes, bordering the Mississippi River, it's here that the British began instigating Native American attacks against American settlers that were moving into that region. Big time bully move. We'll talk about it now. Why do you think American settlers came into conflict with Native Americans in the Northwest Territory? First of all, Americans skipped a word. Americans were moving onto land that was occupied by Native American tribes. So those Native American tribes lived there. They had built, settlements there. They were probably hunting and farming there. And now the Americans are moving onto that land. It further leads to conflict when the British begin supplying guns and ammo to the Native Americans. The British were provoking Native American attacks. Obviously, Britain wants to get back at the United States. They may even want to get their land back. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, question 2. Who are the Warhawks? The Warhawks were a group of young congressmen who called for war versus Britain. They're called Hawks because they were very aggressive. And these young congressmen, led by Henry Clay of Virginia, a guy we'll learn about a lot more in the next couple of months, these young congressmen were aggressive. And they were worried about the economic damage that their region had suffered because of problems with Britain, and they're calling for war. So by tomorrow's lesson, we will learn about the United States declaring war on Britain in 1812. Right now, let's go back to the definitions on your worksheet. We're going to move down here now, and we're going to begin to talk about the conflict in the West. All right, so the first key term that I want you to copy, Native American conflict. The American settlers moving into the Western territories have violent conflict with Native American tribes living out there. I also want you to add to this that the British gave them weapons. That's a huge bully move, and that's a problem. If the British are giving the Native Americans weapons out west, it's almost like the British are instigating the fight. They're just as guilty as the Native Americans who are attacking. The second term I want you to copy, Battle of Tippecanoe. William Henry Harrison is a future president. At this time period, he's the governor of the Indiana Territory. If you look on my messy map here, let me clear this. The Indiana Territory is this present-day state. And William Henry Harrison was governor of the Indiana Territory. It's right near Ohio, and it's one of the first territories in that Northwest Territory that people would move into. His territory was crowded, and by this time period, there were a lot of Americans unhappy with the Native Americans that were threatening them. William Henry Harrison becomes a war hero when he defeats a large force of Native Americans at Prophetstown, Indiana. This famous battle, known as Tippecanoe, makes William Henry Harrison a legend, a war hero, and he goes on to run for president, and he wins. And when Harrison runs for president, his campaign slogan is Tippecanoe and Tyler too. Tyler was the name of his vice president. Now, after the definitions, I want you to answer question 3 on the bottom, why do you think the British helped the Native Americans? This will be our last question of the day. Pause my video, take a look. Why do you think the British helped the Native Americans? So the British probably wanted to prevent America from expanding, but I kind of hinted at this ulterior motive earlier. The British may also see the United States as vulnerable and weak, and if the British can get us in a war, maybe the British think they can get their land back. This war, the War of 1812, is often referred to as the Second War for Independence. You think about what we could lose if we lose this war to the British. We declared war against Britain in 1812. Bold move, knowing that if we don't defend our land, if we don't win this war, if we lose this war, we will lose our freedom. We will lose our independence. We will lose our territory. Like a good TV show, I'm going to leave it there like a cliffhanger. Hopefully you enjoyed today's lesson. I know I did. I look forward to reaching out again tomorrow, Thursday. We've got some religious holidays coming up, so if your family is observing the religious holidays, please email me and let me know that you will not be doing the work Thursday or Friday. You will have to make it up, though, after the holiday weekend. Please email me and let me know. Hope everybody's staying well and staying healthy. And again, I enjoy talking to you guys through video, and I'm going to try to plan another Google Meet in the next couple of days. But be well, get your work done, and any questions, reach out. Have a great day, guys.